Hello and welcome to the latest Sun Racing preview in association with Betway. I'm Tom Bull and I'm delighted to be joined by two giants of the racing world, Callum Jamieson from Sun Racing and Chad Yeomans of Betway. What a weekend we have got in store on Saturday. Yes, that's right, Altior versus Cyrname in the Christie 1965 chase at Ascot and the Betfair chase up at Haydock, which features Bristol de Mai and Lost in Translation. We'll also be talking about the big staying handicap hurdle there, the Grade 3 as well. But first up, we're going to discuss what promises to be a corking match of two titans of the sport, Altior and Cyrname. Altior for Nicky Henderson, Cyrname for Paul Nicholls. There are also three other entries in the race, but it's more than likely to be between these two big guns. Callum, what a racing prospect. I mean, it's great to see. Well, hopefully they'll both line up.
Fingers crossed.
If they do, it promises to be a belter, doesn't it?
I mean, all the signs are there that they will turn up, which you've got to give them credit for. There's been a lot of time for them to avoid this. I think even at the end of last season,
we were hoping it would happen then, didn't they?
They said that would be their likely targets. And I mean, by now they could have come up with an excuse if they wanted to. So fair play to Hendo and Paul Nicholls for that. And like you said, what a race it is. You've got the two top-rated chasers, first time out this season in Britain, going head-to-head. That's all you can ask for, really.
That's a recipe for a wonderful race. Who are you going to side with if you had to pick one of
them? I wouldn't be coming up with a bet. For punting purposes, I think the most likeliest winner is Altior in my book. My angle, sort of punting wise, is always to go with the more proven performer, which is obviously Altior in this case. It's not quite that clear cut at this level because they're obviously both very good horses, but that goes without saying. Obviously, the step up in trip is the slight question. I think he'll get this 2-5, no problem. Gold Cup on that going forward, I'm not quite so sure it is. I don't think that should be his long-term target. Yep. Cyrname's still got a bit to prove in my book. I know he's put up massive numbers, but it's all same conditions. Race has been perfectly to suit, and he's never come across a horse like Altior. So I'd be, as the bookies have priced it up, I'd be with Altior.
Tremendous. Chad, coming to you, do you agree with that?
I would indeed. I mean, I've not brought notes for this race. I don't think it needs to be. I think Altior's a
all
much
off
better.
A cuff.
Ever the professional.
Yeah. I just think Altior is just a much the better horse. I think Cyrname's really overrated, really overhyped on what he's achieved, and we had this conversation earlier in the season with Enable and Crystal Ocean. Enable is just a much better horse in my opinion, and I think Altior's a much better horse than Cyrname.
Do you think that if Cyrname gets an easy lead and pings his fences like he did at the end of last season, do you think it could be a case of he might just get out and he might just get out in front and be hard to catch? Because once you get in that rhythm, it is very difficult to get past.
And Ascot's good for front runners if you get into a rhythm. Yeah. I just think Altior's a much better horse. And is he going to stay? I'd suggest he would. I wouldn't have him in a Gold Cup in a million years. Like, it just wouldn't be for me. He has too much natural raw speed, but I think he's got enough speed, and showed in his previous, at the back end of last season, that he may be losing a touch of that early race pace, but Cyrname can go on and lead. And I think he'll just lead him into the race quite nicely.
It's interesting you said that about speed, because Nicky Henderson came out earlier in the week and said that he thinks he might have too much speed and he might not quite stay, but he's probably just covering his back, because I think we all think 2 mile 5 at Ascot, it's probably not going to take a huge amount of getting.
No, not at all. And I do think when Hendo works his horses, he's not going to be working them at 2 mile 5 and thinking, right, he's got too much pace for this. He's working them up a 5 furlong hill, or he's not going to be working them at full race pace.
Also, what you've got to remember as well is that both times all 3 times he's won at Cheltenham Festival now, over hurdles and then 2 champion chases, and an Arcot as well, which was 4 times course. Every time he's absolutely bolted up the hill, isn't he? He sees the rising ground and he just gets going, absolutely flies, which suggests that he has got plenty of stamina left, and this kind of test may well suit him. I've always been of the opinion that he would actually thrive for a step up in trip, but I'm not Nick Henderson, I don't know the horse as well as he does, but on visual impressions, that's what I've always thought when he's run at Cheltenham. It's a great racing prospect. I hope it goes down to the wire, and I hope they're both together jumping the last, because that would be fantastic. Brilliant for racing.
You don't want one to bomb out, do you?
No, exactly, which is possible. And hopefully they'll both turn up, because obviously not declarations yet. But it does look that way. The other 3 in the race, I think Top Notch. I personally think Top Notch will probably run just because there's a fair amount of prize money. And I think the same can go for Solomon Gray, the Skelton horse. I think Keeper Hill's got tons of entries elsewhere, so he probably won't run. So we're looking probably around 4 runner field, I would say, possibly 3.
I just think Altior, for some reason, is still underappreciated in jumping circles. I mean, as he was coming through, he's coming through as a superstar, and he's still unbeaten since he got beaten in that bumper. For the last year, he hasn't been as sort of stylish in his wins. He's only just getting the job done. So people are starting to take knocks at him, fair enough, but he's still beating everything that's there. And he would win the champion hurdle doing handstands if he still wanted to.
Absolutely.
And you've got a horse that is now taking on Cyrname, who is officially the best horse in training in Britain. If he can beat him over Cyrname's preferred track, all his best runs have come at Ascot, like we said, over his perfect trip, this 2-5 suit Cyrname down to the ground, then you can't knock him. He's unbelievable. Like,
it is quite funny in a way how the handicapper has put Cyrname so high, because I mean he's had 2 wins that have been visually very impressive. The reason Altior, as you say, hasn't been rated so high is because most of his wins recently, at least, have been quite hard fought, or at least he's only won them by a couple of lengths or something.
I think it's so easy to get away with horses that win by a big distance.
Oh, of course it is, yeah.
Gaiath, who won the German race, and you've got who's the other one? Mum's Tipple.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
we do just get carried away with large winning distances. Well, that probably sometimes tells you more about the horses in behind than it does the horses who actually won the race.
Well,
in my opinion.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Well, so I think we're all in agreement then.
Yeah.
Altior, yeah, sticking with that. Yeah, I think. Well, I hope to see Altior win. It'd be fantastic. He's won his last 19, so nice to get 20, wouldn't it?
Indeed.
Hopefully he can do it.
I would want Altior to win just because there's a better story with it. Like, Cyrname might not even race at Cheltenham for the rest of the season. If Altior wins, where's he go next? King George. And if he wins the King George, he's going to have to go for the Gold Cup. So it just adds another layer to the season. Whilst if Cyrname wins, all it'll be is, Nick, Paul, are you going to run him at Cheltenham or not? And Paul go, I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. Blah blah blah. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed then that Altior can do the business at Ascot. Moving on now to the Betfair Chase, which is another high quality race, Grade 1. Bristol de Mai has won this race the last 2 runnings. He takes on a young pretender in Lost in Translation here. He was very impressive last time at Carlisle. He's got bags of potential and jumps like a dream. There's a few others in this with the likes of Frodon and Ballyoptic too who've got chances. Chad, come to you first.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this? I mean, Bristol de Mai looks rock solid at the head of the market, doesn't he?
He really does, actually. I've never backed this horse. I've never been a major fan of him whatsoever. But looking at the race again earlier, Lost in Translation is a great horse, and I do think he'll finish higher up the field in the Gold Cup. But this is
Bristol de Mai.
Yeah, the Bristol de Mai. But this is Bristol de Mai's
bread and butter.
This is it for him.
Yeah.
His Anky's quite underrated actually, and I think maybe more by me than anyone.
Well, yeah, I mean, you might be right. I mean, I've always thought. I think he was rated 178.
The handicapper race.
The handicapper loves it.
Yeah. And the handicapper would be a better judge than I am.
Well, not necessarily.
No comment.
And he was a good third in the Gold Cup though. Like,
he ran a mighty race in there.
I wouldn't say a rubbish horse would finish his third.
Before that, I was thinking he's going to be tailed off halfway because he just doesn't. Every time he's run at Cheltenham, he's been very poor.
Yeah, doesn't like Kempton, but plenty of horses don't like Kempton. Native River doesn't like Kempton, and still managed to win a Gold Cup. So I would actually have to side with Bristol de Mai. As much as I do like Lost in Translation, I do think Lost in Translation will be better over 3 Mile 2 at Cheltenham, and potentially, well, next year again, I think he'll be real in the bank, in the thick of it for a Gold Cup Lost in Translation. Whereas I think this is kind of Bristol de Mai's last chance, really.
Interesting. Do you agree with that, Callum?
I think Chad's covered Bristol de Mai fairly well there. He's obviously won it the last twice, going for 3 in the row here, and I think arguably this is probably the easiest field he's come up against. I think Elegant Escape's not turning up, is he? So he's going to be up against Lost in Translation, Ballyoptic and Frodon. Yeah. So I think they'll likely be 4 runners. Yeah. He's beaten Q Card in this, beat Might Bite when Might Bite I think went off odds on, and he's won that race last 2 years ago, didn't he? By 50-something lengths. Like Haydock is a specialist track, and Bristol de Mai absolutely loves it there. I don't know the exact reason. I don't think even Nigel Twiston-Davies knows the exact reason. But I mean, Lost in Translation's obviously his big rival here. This is by far his biggest test. I mean,
he's got quite a bit to find on ratings. He's got all the potential in the world.
Big step up, isn't it?
He's completely unexposed. Don't get me wrong, but he had it completely his own way at Carlisle, jumping as he liked in behind, while the other 3 just said, "Go on, you win, and we'll play for second."
I mean, Count Marable didn't exactly boost the form.
Well, he ran all right, but Nigel knows that Count Marable he trains would not get within 2 lengths of Bristol de Mai. So. I think it's one thing running around on your own, jumping as you like, and it's another thing chasing Bristol de Mai around Haydock, pinging his fences and tearing up that straight. So I'd side with Bristol de Mai, but again, small field, small prices, I'm not sure I'll be getting involved.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. I think there are very few horses in history who could beat Bristol de Mai over that trip on that ground at that track. He just something seems to click with him. He's a beautiful jumper. He never makes a mistake. Gallops them all into the ground. He has that amazing cruising speed that he just seems to keep galloping. He's a bit like a horse called Grey Abbey used to be, who just kind of went out in front and then was always in the same rhythm, but it was just too much for the horses to get to him. I think it'll be the same case this year, and I think it is a slightly weaker renewal actually, and I think Lost in Translation is not going to be suited by this test actually. He's run once at Haydock in the past and he was badly tailed off. For quite a consistent horse, it was a really poor performance, and that would spell danger because it is a specialist track. I know it was over hurdles and he's a much better horse than he used to be, but still. Frodon only rated £1 inferior to Bristol de Mai.
He's been a bit underrated.
He has.
We've just probably done that ourselves. He won the Ryanair well, put up big numbers there. But Paul's obviously got a cracking record on this, but he's not Quarto Star, is he?
No, he's not.
He's a good horse, but I think Bristol de Mai would have his number here.
I agree, and I think this is a very difficult race in which to make his debut over a 3 mile plus distance. Whether he'll stay or not, we still don't know. Hopefully he will. It'd be nice to see him take his chance in the Gold Cup because he goes so well at Cheltenham later in the season. But yeah, I agree. Bristol de Mai all the way. I think he's going to be very, very difficult to beat. I hope Ballyoptic runs well as well for Sun Racing ambassador.
He stays on. He'll be sweet come the end.
Yeah, exactly. And he loves the ground, and he's got race fitness on his side. So hopefully he'll run a big race. Yeah, but I think we're all in agreement again. Bristol de Mai.
It's dangerous. This.
It's a very dangerous game. Last but very much not least is the Grade 3 Staying Handicap Hurdle, the race before the Betfair Chase at Haydock. The Betfair Best Odds on ITV Races Stayers Handicap Hurdle, to give it its full title. Umbrigado heads the market here for David Pipe, who's having a very good season. Little Rockefeller heads the weights. Lisnaker Oscar is up there as well, with a few others. Callum, come to you first. What's your fancy in this?
I like Breaking Waves here for Noel Williams. Quite keen to take on David Pipe favourite. I like a good few in this, but Breaking Waves is top of the shortlist at the moment. He is entered at Ascot 2 in a hot little novice handicap chase, but I'd be surprised if he went there just because it is quite a good race to start your chasing career on. Off 130, you could find a lot easier races. He just caught the eye in a big way at Cheltenham last time in a good handicap. Shaped like he needed further. He goes up to 3 miles and a bit for the first time here. He was bumped along quite early there, but kept going, got fourth there in a good little race. The winners run well since and a good handicap at Aintree, I think. He's just lightly raced. He got good novice form behind Lisnagar Oscar last year, who is obviously, as he mentions, in this race here, but I think he's £10-11 better off with him here.
Yeah.
And Noel Williams is in really good form. His last 3 runners, I mean, he's obviously going to have runners between now and Saturday, so it won't be his last 3 of 1, and I think 4 of the last 6, something like that. So he's in good form. Yeah. So I'd point towards him. The other couple I've got on the list that I like, Lisnagar Oscar, I think he's short enough, but he's got a good chance. I mean, he hasn't got going over fences, to say the least. He absolutely looked like he hated chasing at Stratford last time. Brian Hughes is booked, I believe, and that form in the Albert Bartlett behind Champ at Aintree, you'd think in a race like this gives him a good sniff.
Absolutely. And he won at the track, didn't he, last season?
Yeah, he won, was at that Grade 2, wasn't it?
Yeah, won easily as well.
And then Stony Mountain as well for Henry Daly. I think he'll win a big race this year. Nice handicap pot somewhere. He won the race at Aintree that Paisley Park won last year before he won this race. And then Flash of Steel as well, I think, is going a bit under the radar. Obviously won the Silver Trophy at Chepstow last time. I think he's quite a good price as well.
Excellent, lovely. Chad?
Yeah, I mean, I quite like Umbrigado. He's there to be shot at, as you said, because he's plenty short enough in the betting. But Piper's won this 3 out of the last 10 years.
He's having a much better season this year, isn't he, Pipe?
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple at Cheltenham last Sunday. Duke Duboshen, I think, was laser targeted for that race. He's won that race 4 times in the last 10 years now, Pipe.
And Israel Champion won the same colours, the bumper.
I mean,
he's definitely in good form, but a few of his horses did just bottom out.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
Ramsey de Tai stopped, Eden de Who just stopped as well.
Yeah.
There's a few of them. They're obviously there, but not quite.
Some of them are there,
yeah.
some of them aren't. I think he would have targeted this.
But it does look that way, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah,
he's been strong in the market for a while.
Yeah, and he's always said in stable tours throughout the autumn and early winter that this is where he'll go first. My main fan, I mean, I like Breaking Waves, Noel Williams. I think Noel Williams is a massively underrated trainer. Massively underrated.
Sign him up for Betway.
Well, cheers.
Bear that in mind.
Yeah. I won't allude to any more than what you've done. You've kind of made a really good case, exactly what I was going to say. But my main fancy is Tedham for John Joe Neal. I think he's a lovely
at the bottom of the weights.
Yeah, he's actually been on my radar for a while, and some of the viewers remember from our previous and looking forward focus.
The die-hard listeners.
The die-hard listeners, yeah. I really do like this horse, and I think off 130 he's a much better horse than that. In his novice hurdle form, he finished behind Al Dancer in a race, Getaway Trump, the Big Bite, and they've proved to be a bit better.
Yeah, absolutely.
he won easily at Wincanton last January, in January, and then went off favourite for an entry handicap at 11-2. Was really well supported, but that was just too much for him, I think. Came out of Cheltenham in that race, Breaking Waves is fourth in. Travelled really well, moved up ominously to come about 6 wide, and then faded out, and then stayed on again at the hill to finish 6th and flew up the hill. And I think this is going to be more his test, a 3 mile.
Okay.
And I think 130. I think
it is a low mark, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's much better than that. And then 10-1, I think it's a huge price.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to be siding with a couple here. It all depends whether or not Willie Mullins sends over 8 and Bob, because if he does, this horse has got a massive chance. Stepped up to 3 miles last time, won narrowly, but the pair, it was a big field, and the pair were 15 lengths clear of the rest of the runners. A whole 15, yeah, the whole 9 yards. And the second had won 2 races before that race, so the form looks strong. He's one of the most consistent horses in training. Since he's joined Willie Mullins, here's a bit of a fact for you, he has finished either first or second on 12 of his 16 starts, which is pretty impressive, both on the flat and over hurdles. So he obviously loves to run well, loves to go for the Mullins stable, because Sutton must love him as well. So hopefully he'll come over. I think he's on a decent mark. He's gone up in the weights a bit, but he's very progressive, and he's still only 6. So I can see him running a big race. The other one I like is one that you've already alluded to, Callum. Flash the Steel for Dan Skelton.
Good pick.
Won the Silver Trophy last time, and the form of that race actually looks pretty decent, because the second has since won twice over fences, Champagne Court.
Yes.
The third's won over fences as well, a very Mickey Mouse race, but he still won. Fifth has finished second in listed hurdle, and the sixth has finished fourth in a grade 2. So it does look pretty decent form.
And the horse who's pulled up, Zanza,
is also won.
Yeah.
Indeed. He's up £8, but he won that quite convincingly, and he's still very unexposed, and Skelton knows exactly how to win this kind of race. He loves a handicap win. So I can see him going very well, absolutely indeed. Those are the 2 I like.
Why
I don't know, really. I think AC Milan, if he's finally rediscovered his mojo, has got a chance right at the bottom of the weights, because on his early form, when he was running in bumpers, he was always destined
a favourite for the champion, didn't he?
Yeah, and he was always likely to be better than the mark of low 130s.
There's a lot of well-handicated Honeyball horses, isn't there?
Well, yeah, I don't know what that says. And then obviously the top of the weights, Look Rockefeller, we've got to give him a mention, because at his best, he's a very smart hurdler.
Yeah.
He's got to give a lot of weight here, but second in a world hurdle, he's in the Stayers hurdle. He's obviously got talent if he's back to his best. He's not been so good over fences recently, but those are my 2, 8 and Bob, Flash the Steel. Callum?
Yeah, I've mentioned my 3, but Breaking Waves is
the
top
number 1
of that list.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he comes here, because I've already had a little bet on him. So.
Lovely. And Chad?
Tedham, I think it's a bet of the weekend.
Here we go.
There you go. Yeah. I like it. I was answering my next question, actually.
He is becoming a cliff horse, isn't he, already?
He's run twice since I personally backed him off the boards in January. I paid for my summer holiday.
So he holds a little special place in your heart as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not backing him for that reason.
No. I'm far too shrewd a judge to do that.
I do think he's just better than his mark and needs 3 miles. So he'd be my top pick, and I do think Breaking Waves will run onto a place if he goes here and not Ascot and Novice Chase.
Great stuff. I mean, usually at this point in the programme, I would ask for your best bets for the weekend, but obviously without your Altior and Bristol de Mai running, it's not much point really, is there? So we'll just stick with the selections from that race, I think. One thing we should talk about before we go is the chasing debut of Forheen. Now, he's caused a lot of consternation amongst some people in racing Twitter and in racing in general for being sent over fences at such a late stage of his career for Willie Mullins as an 11-year-old. And indeed, he did strike a few, he belt a few, didn't he? Yeah. But he still got a massive engine to get over in front the way he did. Callum, do you think it was right to keep him in training, send him over fences?
I've got no problem with it whatsoever, to be honest. I mean, like you said, his jumping wasn't great. I think he thinks he's jumping hurdles still, which is a bit of a problem. Each to their own, to be honest. Willie Mullins knows the horse quite well, so do the owners, obviously. Go and have a bit of fun with him. Yeah. Horses can come to grief any time of the day, anywhere, so go and race him.
Absolutely. It'd be interesting to see if they do target open company or just stick to novice routes. Well, he's a 12-year-old. If he's going to get in training next year, it'd be interesting to see how he gets on. Chad, what do you think?
I've got no major thought on it, really. I'd never want to second guess Willie Mullins. If he thinks the horse is fit enough and well enough and he jumps well enough to go over fences, then who am I to ever argue with?
Well, he knows more than any of us.
Completely, yeah.
10 times.
And when I was there last month, they did say he's striving this season. He's brilliant. So,
if he's good enough, I suppose, why not?
You can always go back over hurdles. So.
Well,
yeah, completely. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, hopefully you can go right to the top, because it'd be great, wouldn't it? Great. Well, I think that is done and dusted. Us done and dusted for the week. Hopefully we've given you some bets and just basically enjoy it, because both Betfair Chase and the 1965 Chase look absolute crackers this year. Hopefully we'll see Altior and Bristol de Mai do the business, and best of luck with whatever you select on the day.